And good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in to a new postgame show here for the Fighting Phillies this year. This is the Bats and Bells Phillies postgame show. I'm your host, James Scorza, with you. And with me, as always, as I always compare it to with Flyers postgames and also Pass and F Sports Show, Joey Marks on this very important Sunday afternoon. Joey, looks like the Phillies can win them all on this very important Sunday, but it was still a pretty good game to watch.
No, it was, and this they got the series. That's what matters. And the old adage is if you win enough series, if you win all the series, even like you're gonna have a good season. And so, today there were just a couple things that didn't go their way, but overall the series is a good thing to review. We saw a lot of different things in this series to kind of break down.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, we got a comment here. It says, I think this is Star Wars 99. I think I heard that name probably going back a few years. I think it was like somebody named Star Wars.
Luke,
Yeah.
Luke.
Use the Force, Nola. And he says Nola needs to do needs to do better.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
he didn't use the force. The Nationals used the force against him.
Exactly, right. Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into this recap of so the Phillies took 2 out of 3 here today against the Nationals, but the thing about it too that was really surprising is that coming into this game and coming into this like basically series and also the beginning of the baseball season, I was thinking like, okay, maybe they'll probably start to do something and start to play like they like we're supposed to be playing like at the beginning points of last year and all that. But overall, I mean, taking 2 out of 3 in the first series is a very good sign of better things to come here for the Fighting Phils.
So this was like a felt like a Jekyll and Hyde series, but you go from being struck out as many times as the Phillies were struck out in the first game,
Yeah,
despite still winning it in the extras. I mean, look, but that's the Phillies we know, like the resilience, the you never say die attitude, like that first game and even the second game. In both games, like they came from behind, but especially in the first game, like the idea that you had been stymied for 6 innings and
hmm
with all those strikeouts and, you know, basically Gore having like his way with you. Um, the Nationals manager made a mistake and pulled him out. I mean, look, I get it. You don't want him to out overthrow his arm the first game of the season, but still, I mean, the Phillies lineup had no solution for what he was throwing. And the other part of this that really kind of caught my attention is that you go from game 1 to game 2, which you go from like strikeouts to the home run derby. Like
right.
and that's the Jekyll and Hyde effect. Is that this Phillies team? We still, I honestly can't tell you after this one series, um, even if you like pinned me down about it, I really couldn't tell you whether this team is better, worse, or the same as last year, just because they haven't shown me yet that this is something. The only thing I could say is the same is they're still got the fighting nature. Like they're never going to, even today, like they were never going to try and be out of it. They had some things not go their way, fine, but they didn't like give up. They didn't come out and just like, it's Sunday. Like, we already won 2 games. It's the beginning of the season.
Right. Right.
But like that's the thing is they still had their fighting nature about them. So that's the same. But there's definitely still a lot of things to clean up. There are some things that we can review about this series that we can walk away from and say, okay, this was a success. One foremost than others is Zach Wheeler. Zach Wheeler looked like he was in October mode.
Yes.
Like it just he didn't get all the pitches he would have wanted and all the calls he would have wanted, but man, the guy is just a machine
Pure
and
dominant. Pure dominant, man.
pure dominance. And then to see Lazardo come out and he had some struggles, but overall, he showed a lot of good stuff. And, then today with Nola, like I think the Nola bugaboo is back with the idea of him giving up the long ball. And Ricky Patalco mentioned this um, prior, and that is that when you give up home runs like Aaron Nola does,
Right.
when it was solo home runs, that's one thing. You
Sure.
can't get killed by that. But today it was a 3-runner and a 2-runner, and
Yeah.
that's just that's going to kill you. That's going to kill your offense. They just never were able to bounce back from those 2 pitches, and but there's a lot to cover, and let's go back to game 1, and James, I gotta ask you,
Sure.
what's the thing that you pulled away from at the end as your positive? Outside of Wheeler, what was the thing about the offense that you pulled out as a positive in game 1?
It's one of those things that I thought it was probably one of the positives that came out of it too is that you think about the strikeouts, they struck out like so many times, and also was thinking like, okay, now they're just like, I mean, they're gonna probably start to struggle a little bit, but then they got to the Nationals bullpen, and I was thinking like, okay, maybe, I mean, like obviously Mackenzie Gore looked like a bona fide stud out there, gonna man, I'm not gonna lie to you, but at the same time, it was just like, I mean, after they got to the bullpen, I was thinking like, okay, maybe this is where the magic has to happen now. And then they started to just to start. I mean, Zach Wheeler was fantastic on Friday. I mean, he played his backside off. I thought he played very, very well. And the other thing too that I really stuck out to me too was that just like the hitting of the baseball came back at full force like in the next couple innings after Gore went out when they got pulled in that game, and then they went to the Nationals bullpen, and then they were just starting to hit the baseball, and it was just pretty amazing to see. Gonna admit, Joe.
So here's the thing that stood out to me about that offense in game 1 is Alec Baum. Alec Baum was a guy that overall the whole lineup struggled, but
Hmm.
Alec Baum was the guy that turned the key for that offense to get going in the later innings. With that double, this is a guy that many people want to, frame him as the crybaby, and that's fine. That's
Right.
not an illegitimate argument, but this is also a guy that led the team in doubles a year ago.
That's
This is
true.
a guy that may not put the ball over the fence all that often. He might be one of the slowest guys on the team. All that's possibly true. But here's the bottom line. If this is a guy that can come up with men on base, whether it's one or two or all three at that point, this is a guy that can really do some damage RBIs wise. I'm really looking towards Alec Baum being an over 100 RBI player this year. So I would look for that because I don't think he's going to do it with all the long ball like most of the rest of the lineup. I think he's going to do it with those doubles.
Yeah.
Um, let's dive into game 2 with Luzardo. What were some of the positives you saw out of Luzardo?
Yeah, like you said early on in the post game, that his struggles were a little bit kind of. I wouldn't say it was concerning, but I think he was just trying to figure out what the location of the pitch was going to be like. And I thought he played very well too. I thought he pitched very well. I thought he was very solid. Like we were on opening day, I thought he played to this. I mean, the other thing too that kind of surprised me a little bit, even not Michael Barkin, Tom McCarthy even brought it up. He's like this was supposed to be Noah going game 2, and Luzardo was supposed to be coming to game 3. But I mean, just to see like the presence that he pitched yesterday and see what he played like, and also how he fared yesterday was really good to see. I thought he played. I thought he pitched very very well. I thought he pitched. I mean, there's some stuff that he has to critique, but at the same time, that's why he got his 162 of them, and that's why there's going to be a lot of chances to like redeem himself or like for more about what they have in store for the upcoming season too.
The one thing that stood out with me with Lazardo was his movement with the speed that he's putting on his pitches. He threw a couple cutters and a couple like off-speed pitches, and they were all like in the high 90s. And
Right,
as John Kruk said, when you have a pitch that's moving that fast with movement, good luck. Like
right,
as a batter, because it's one thing to hit a ball 99, 98 miles an hour that's straight, but you're hitting a ball that's 98 miles an hour, 97 miles an hour, and it's moving on you got no chance pretty much because you don't have a time to react. I mean, that's not split second. That's like a hair of a second.
Right.
Like that's how fast the ball gets on you. So that really impressed me about Luzardo.
Yeah.
Now, we have to kind of preface this. Game two, Trey Turner, and today, Trey Turner was out
Right.
um, with some tightness and soreness.
Right.
Um, I think that's to be expected because he played and worked a lot in spring training, and I think he's going to have a little bit of rust that he's got to shake off and knock off to get to prime season, form.
Right.
Um, and then today, during game two yesterday, uh, JT Realmuto got plunked and he had a contusion, I believe,
Oh
on
wow.
his wrist or whatever. But what we know is that JT will be back in the lineup Monday. He just told I think Rob just wanted to err on the side of caution because JT's a really tough, strong guy, and we get it. We don't need that to be proven more and more. Um, what did you see out of the offense? I mean, there was a lot to be seen in the offense in game two. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot. I mean,
Um,
talk about pouring it on. Like
yeah.
Rob Thompson at one point, I think it's kind of like when I play like MLB The Show.
Right.
It's like, okay, I'm up 10-2. What do I do? I don't want to keep, and like it's the fifth inning. It's
Sure.
like you don't want to keep your start. There's like a hesitation. You don't want to keep your starters in because it's a blowout, and
Yeah.
you want to get some of your bench pieces in to see what you have.
Hmm.
And Rob Thompson did that. So let me ask you, what's your takeaway on the offensive lineup and how the decision making of Rob Thompson and bringing in some of those bench pieces like Cody Clemens and whatnot?
Well, I'll answer the last question first, and I'll go right into the detail. I mean, it's kind of like in football when you have a big lead, and you put rest the starters and you put your bench players in. So it was kind of like how to feel like a little bit similar to what the Eagles were doing in this season. So it was like something in that same ripple effect. But no, yeah, dude, you're absolutely right about the dominance that happened yesterday with the Phillies just dominating the Nationals every chance they got. I mean, there was like a lot of there was a lot of things to be happening in that game yesterday. The one thing that really stuck out to me, it was just like the day before they strike out a boatload and just strikeout after strikeout after strikeout, and then the next day they like you even said before we got on here, like home run derby. Like
Yeah.
it's just like one of those things. That was, I mean, it was not like I was concerned about them hitting a lot. I mean, it was good to see them hitting a lot today. Not today, but yesterday rather. But the one thing I was really happy to see too was just the level of poise that they have in the hitting, and like even would probably bring up in the third portion of our here in this like final in this season series that closes out here today is that they continue to hit the baseball and they continue to play very well with that too.
No, they did, and I mean, we can look at that goose egg. We can look at that idea that they lost today. But here's the thing: is that they still got hits. They just didn't execute it with score men in scoring position. Today was kind of like a reemergence of two different bugaboos. One being Aaron Nola giving up the long ball, and two the Philadelphia Phillies
Sure.
leaving men in scoring position. And look, this is this is the point of the season that this is the point of the season where you have to figure out how can we correct this, not let it go, not let progress take its course. No, no, no. We've been around each other for far too long. We need to start to see these guys making these kinds of adjustments. And I say this as well when we talk about the seriousness and making adjustments in this season and this season starting out. I want to get your impression. What's your take on the fact that they're no longer doing the antics in post games after wins? Like the daycare is no more. What
Hmm.
what what's your opinion on that?
I find it interesting to say the least, Joe. I think that's the other thing that I mean. You thought I mean I was thinking about it yesterday because when we had that 11-6 win, I was thinking, okay, now it's time for the daycare to show what they're made of. And I saw it, and then I'm seeing the other post games. I'm thinking they're going back to the locker room. I'm thinking, wait, that's it. I mean, it kind of caught me off guard a little bit, but no, but I understand what they're trying to do is like say, okay, Like we can have the fun all we want, unless if we don't like if we can have, I guess you could say we can have the fun, but at the same time we can also just come together and try to play as a unit as two. I mean, the fun games only happen and the celebration only happens if you win. So I'm guessing they're probably saying, okay, it's only the first. I mean, we won these two games, but now it's just back to business, and that's probably the most important thing too.
You brought it up earlier about what happened in the second game, and kind of comparing it to the Eagles season this past season. I'm kind of reminiscent of that the daycare going away as kind of the same attitude. Like, now, guess what? We're business. Just like the Eagles were, they took care of business.
Right.
That's all it was. We can rah-rah, we can hoop and holler, we can do all that, that's fine. We don't need to get crazy with it. Not until we finish the mission. We
Exactly.
dropped the ball too many times to be sitting here celebrating the second game or the first game of the season with wins against the Nationals.
Yeah.
No, we need to be celebrating when we're hoisting that trophy and we're saying, okay, guess what? Now we can go as bonkers as we want. Like the you know handcuffs are off, so to speak. My feeling is this, that this team is built to be businesslike,
Right.
is built to be methodical. I said this before. There are some concerns I have about this team. This I want to go back to game one a little bit.
Hmm.
So one of the biggest concerns that I saw was our bullpen. And it's something I said on our show a couple weeks ago.
Sure.
This is the major concern that I have because outside of Kirkring and Alvarado, it's a crapshoot. I don't care what you want to say they have in there. Tanner Banks, Jose Ruiz, Strom, Romaro, or whatever. Like, I don't care. My feeling is none of those guys are showing me enough stuff to have the, like, confidence that they're shutting people down on a day-to-day basis, and so it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to moving forward to see how that's remedied because this was just the Nationals, and look, we're lucky, and we'll get into it in a couple minutes, but we're lucky because the next series we're gonna be going against Colorado, who is another bottom feeding team, so we're gonna be
Right.
able to kind of work out some of these kinks at least early on, against teams that aren't very good. But heads up, we're gonna have the gauntlet coming in somewhat soon in a couple weeks with the
Mm.
Dodgers. So
Yep.
we got to get it right. We should be able to try and get it at least corrected enough from this series to and the next series to get ourselves ready for that Dodger series. Get ourselves ready for these other series coming up. And, so I'll ask as one of the other things about this series. Today, what was something offensively or pitching wise? What is something overall? What is something that stood out to you overall about the Phillies today, good or bad?
Uh, I mean, it's interesting because you think about what happened in this game today. What's going to say Aaron Nola was solid for the last couple innings because he struck out seven, but then he couldn't get a hit, obviously. But I think it's more that the Phillies are continuing to hit the baseball more than anything. I think that's the big story that's going to be coming into this game tomorrow as they open the homestand here and also open the 2025 home campaign here. And more importantly than anything like that, I think that's going to be the one thing that's going to be the big X factor as we get closer and closer to that Dodgers series after the Rockies come in here. That's going to be the big key that's going to keep a close eye on. I think that's going to be the one thing that, sure, I mean, today they got only one run out of it, but they gave up five. But hopefully tomorrow, like they start to get back to the actual reality of what they were trying to do before the season came to. I mean, just go back to what they were doing in spring training and start hitting more baseballs. I mean, not out of the ballpark, but it's like hitting season should come a little bit early this year, especially what the team has looked like.
Well, I mean, and I go back to game two, and that's why, like, I feel like some of this stuff can be, and even parts of game towards the end of game one,
Yeah,
some of those
yeah, sure.
things were not all home runs. I mean, some of them, I mean, game two, there were a lot of home runs, but some of them weren't all home runs because in game two, especially, they were multi-run home runs. I mean, I said it before we came on the air, James,
Right.
that technically Bryson Stott. I mean, I get it, the wild pitch, and Ruiz couldn't handle it, and Stott came down to score while his bases loaded and Kyle Schwarber up the bat, and then Kyle wound up hitting a 3-run home run. If I'm going over to Kyle, I mean, if I'm going over to Bryson, just playfully, I'm going, dude, stay on third so I could get my grand slam. You took my grand slam away, man.
Yeah,
But
right.
I get it. Like, in order to get the bases loaded, in order to get and even today, even there was a couple times where there were 2 or 3 men on base and they just couldn't get them home. That being said, that means they are contacting. They
Yeah.
are getting the ball in play. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of, okay, if if Harper's on second or Stott's on second, how do we get them home?
Right.
Like, that has to become the conversation. Um, One of the things I wanted to introduce, and I'm not sure what you have on your notes, because this is our debut episode, so I wanted
Sure.
to throw it out live. So on Flyers post game, we would usually do our MVP and our grades. So in tribute to the title of the show, instead of saying MVP, why don't we go with the bell of the ball? Like, for
Hmm.
bats and bells, why don't we go with the bell of the ball? Who is the bell of the ball of this series?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. That's a good question because you think about it. I mean, there was so much to unpack here, especially in that game yesterday too. Like, especially in that game on Friday too. But if I had to go with one, I gotta go with hmm. I gotta go with Alec Bohm.
Oh,
I think I saw a lot of good things out of Bohm in this series. I thought he played well. I thought he played very, very solid. I mean, today was a little bit of a like rock and a hard place, but I
yeah.
mean, overall, I think he played well. So I guess I gotta go with what, like you said, with the belt. What was it called, Joe?
The bell of the ball.
Bell
The
with the
bell
ball.
of the ball.
It's like a tongue twister, good a bit.
Yeah.
No, but I gotta go with Bomer, man. I think he played very well in this series.
So, for me, the bell of the ball for this series has to be Bryson Stott. And why? Because this is a guy came into this season with a lot of question
Yeah,
marks. And even
right.
in like the end of the first game, I mean, everyone was striking out. So, I mean, Stott can't, the bottom of the lineup is the bottom of the lineup. But this is a guy who has been told. He went from like a 2-hole hitter, 4 hole hitter, like a top of the lineup guy, to now the bottom of the lineup guy. And he's basically been put there and relegated there by Rob Thompson to say, you got to prove yourself. You had a
Yeah.
bad season last year. You got to prove yourself. I get it. You were hurt, but you got to prove yourself. You got to prove that that you'd belong at the top of that lineup. So, and he did in definite parts of this series. He proved to me he's back, and he made some good defensive plays. He made some good hitting plays. Overall, my bell of the ball is Bryson Stott.
I
Um,
gotta go one step closer too. I can give you an alternate too. Brandon Marsh looked very well too in in that second game of the series too. I think him trying to come back around too will be something to keep a close eye on too as your new center fielder too.
and you know what? Here's the thing to really process. Okay, the DH is not as new as it has been in the NL. I mean, it's been around for a couple seasons now. All
Right,
right. So, but in the NL, we were so used to the 9-hole hitter being a pitcher,
right,
a guy that's going to bat less than 200 in an average, if
right,
not like closer to 100.
right.
Brandon Marsh, given the right circumstances, given the right amount of time, given the right, approach, this is a guy who potentially could be a 250 hitter.
Hmm.
And you're talking about a 250 hitter at your 9-hole. That's going to turn the lineup back over. And whether it's Kyle Schwarber leading off like at that 1 hole, or whether you have Trey Turner, you're going to be, if you could turn this lineup over easily, If you could turn this lineup over on a day-to-day basis, like Brandon Marsh could, it's gonna make the rest of the lineup far more dangerous because that's
Definitely.
just like that's like a Gatling gun. Like, all of a sudden, the firepower is just gonna keep rotating and rotating, and those pitchers that are gonna be coming in are like, "What are we supposed to do?" It
Right.
was it was Brandon Marsh who was the 9-hole hitter to start the inning. Now I'm doing Kyle Schwarber in the cleanup spot with 2 men on. Like, what am I supposed to do here? I
Right.
already gave up 1 run this inning. Like, uh, pitchers are going to feel frustrated because if the firepower is strong towards the bottom of the lineup with a guy like Stott and Marsh, we already know the top of the lineup's going to be good. I mean, we already know that. We
Right.
know that if anything, they're going to be powerful. They may not always be consistent, but they're going to be powerful. Bryce
Right.
Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Castellanos, Trey Turner, like these guys are gonna hit the ball. They're gonna get it out of the ballpark every once in a while.
Yep.
So
Yep.
turning that lineup over is going to be valuable to this team.
Definitely.
Um, if
Definitely.
in this season. So let's get to our grades for this series. I got to give it a B plus for this series because I saw a lot of positives from the starting. I saw a lot of positives from the starting pitching. I get Nola and I get some of the hiccups that Luzardo had, and you can subtract that and everything. But we've seen that from Nola before. We've seen the home run thing before, and you just got to hope that he sees it and that he can get it under control. He
Right.
got behind in some counts. He kind of got a lot of full counts and kind of let a lot of guys kind of on the base paths, and that's not good. And he'll work on that. I have faith in that. Luzardo needs to work on his control and his mechanics. He will. I have full confidence in that. And Zach Wheeler is just a machine. The real question, we'll get to this in a minute, is going to be what the next starting pitchers have to bring.
Yeah.
And
That's the most important thing.
I'm going to correct you on some. You said about Luzardo having the second was second for the rotation, like in
Right.
game 2. It wasn't that he was replacing Aaron Nola. He was replacing Christopher Sanchez because Christopher
Oh,
Sanchez
okay.
was supposed to
Right.
be the two pitcher. So my feeling is that Rob Thompson in some way has a plan that game 1 of a series, because this is Rob Thompson's plan all the time. You got to win the series. How do you start that? How do you start the series off well? You got to put someone good as a pitcher in game 1. You have to play, you have to take game 1.
Right.
Well, I think Christopher Sanchez, I'm not sure yet. You'll have to look this up, but I think Christopher Sanchez is the starting pitcher for tomorrow.
Right.
And if
Yeah, I
that's the
think that's
case,
about that sounds about right. Yeah.
then think about that. You swapped your 4 and your 2 pitchers so that way you can shore up being able to take 2 possible series back to back
Right.
to begin the season. So that's huge. So what's your grade for this series?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Joe. I gotta give it a B plus too. I thought they played very well in the 2 games. Obviously today was a little bit of a clunker, but hey, it happens. I mean, just winning, just taking this series is the most important thing they gotta take out of
Mhm.
it, especially what you have to do. I really did like what Luzardo did yesterday. I really liked what Wheeler did on Friday on the opening series on the 2025 campaign. I thought he pitched very, very well too. Just like I alluded to at the beginning of the post game, just the Phillies hitting just became a real good tall task for other opponents and also for the Nationals bullpen, especially after striking out so many on Friday. But then they went to the bullpen and they started to play a little bit better. I think that's the most important thing too, because you think about it, the way that they're going to have Christopher Sanchez go tomorrow. I think that's very smart because they're probably saying is like we don't want Taiwan Walker to go because especially what happened with so many times before, and they're like thinking, okay, maybe we got to give these Phillies fans a little bit something to grab onto because if it's Taiwan Walker, it could be a long day for the Phils.
So think about it this way. This is the other thing. So you're absolutely right. So think about it this way. When you have the season opener, you have Zach Wheeler. Okay. So
Right.
that's an honor for Zach Wheeler. When you have the home opener, you're giving the ball to Christopher Sanchez. That home opener is an honor. Like
Right.
that means more. So they obviously weren't going to give it to Taiwan Walker. Like
No.
that's for sure. But that being, what we were saying about, the whole perspective of getting that first game, that's going to be the most important thing. Well,
Yep.
before we wrap up today, is there any other things on the agenda you wanted to cover?
I was just gonna ask you one question about what the Phillies need to do in this upcoming home series with the Rockies and the Dodgers. So, what's going to be the one thing going to keep a close eye on it, especially when the Phillies play for? They'll be at CBP for a little bit here. So, what's your expectations for what this Phillies team will look like in the next couple games?
It's about pitcher management, because here's what I think, okay? Christopher Sanchez is going to do his thing. Then you're going to flip the rotation over, and eventually Zach and everybody else is going to come back around. Okay. But when you're in CBP, the thing that you have to worry about is, all right, what do we do with Taiwan Walker? Because
Right.
we know that is a volatile pitcher that could give up 10 runs as easily as, I could, like that's how bad it is. But not just that, it's the pitching management when it comes to the bullpen. Because yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's thin. And so you don't want to push your starting pitchers to a point where your whole rotation is going 6, 7, 8 innings this early in the season. You need to save some of their innings for later, which means you're going to have to rely on the bullpen. That being said, can you? Like against the Rockies? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I have a little bit more confidence in that because the Rockies aren't world beaters. The Dodgers, however, they are. And so you're going to struggle if you go against the Dodgers and you cannot keep that starting pitcher in for 6 innings and be able to have a reliever come in and just shut the door. It's going to be difficult. That Dodgers series is going to be really telling to how bad or good the health of this pitching staff really is, both the starters and the bullpen.
Right. No question about it. Before we go, what we're gonna do, like we always did around the National Hockey League, but this is like all around the majors. So, without further ado, actually this is pretty a busy MLB weekend if you think about it too. All around the major leagues because all around majors because everybody started their season. But a couple games going final right now before we get out of here. The Brewers taking on the Yankees earlier today. It was a 12-3 final by the Yankees over Milwaukee. The Blue
How
Jays
many
won.
home runs did Aaron Judge have today? Jesus
Right.
Christmas.
Yeah, they had 20 runs yesterday against the what was it 20 runs against the Brewers yesterday
He
and
had, he had 3 home runs in a game.
Jesus Christ.
Like, okay, Aaron, relax, calm down.
I'll be damned. He's going to probably hit 60 plus again. He's already
I'm just saying, should we test the guy? I'm just saying. Go ahead, there,
yeah,
James.
yeah, absolutely. The Blue Jays went in today 3-1 over Baltimore. I got to tell you right now, I think Baltimore is going to be a really good team again. I like
I
Rod
do
Schmidt.
too. I do too.
Um, so the Marlins winning over the Pirates. That's another good team to keep a close eye on with
Yep.
Paul Skeens. They won 3-2 over the Pirates today. Giants winning over the Cincinnati Reds 6-3 at Great American Ballpark. The Rays winning again 6-4 over Colorado. So I'm guessing Colorado's going to come in here and like just kind of have a chip on his shoulder or something like that. But Colorado's going to be a really bad team again. I think
They
that's
could
going to.
they are who they are. They
Yeah,
are who they are.
yeah, this is what they are. Exactly right.
Yep.
So right now there's a game that's in a delay right now between the Angels and the White Sox. It's tied at 2-2 apiece, so that's to be determined. The Guardians winning right now 6-0 over the Cleveland. I'm sorry, the Guardians taking on the Royals taking on today at Kauffman Stadium, and that's a 6-0 in the middle of the eighth. 8-2 right now, St. Louis against Minnesota. That is also delayed due to rain. A couple games still going on right around this time right now. The Rangers have a 3-2 lead over Boston. The Cubs have a 1-0 lead over Chicago Cubs have a 1-0 lead over the Diamondbacks. Let's see. Athletics and Mariners are tied up at still scoreless. That's in the top of the third. And the last game of the night, it will be the Braves taking on the Padres. That's set for 7:10. That's the Sunday Night Baseball showcase. And I guess we have a couple games going on tomorrow, so there's a lot of busy games going on tomorrow. Oh, my God. Jesus. So you got the Brewers taking on the Royals. That's the first game of the home opener for Milwaukee. Chicago taking on the Twins. That's the White Sox taking on the Twins. Red Sox at Camden Yards to open their 2025 MLB homestand. They took on the Red Sox. Like I mentioned, Phillies taking on the Rockies tomorrow at 3:05. Marlins taking on the Mets. That's set for 6:40, along with the Reds and the Rangers. Pittsburgh taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. That's set for 7:05. Nationals taking on the Blue Jays. That's set for 7:07. So you got the Cardinals taking on the Angels. That's an inter-league matchup again for the Angels taking on the Cardinals. That's the second time in the interleague for the second time this week for St. Louis. That's set for 7:45. The Astros taking on the Giants. That's an A-10 matchup. I don't know what they used to call it Minute Maid Park, but I don't know what it's called anymore. I guess they got a new sponsor, so that's kind of interesting. And these other two games are set for 9:40. It will be the Guardians taking on the Padres, and it will be the Mariners closing out the night to take on Detroit.
Yeah. Well,
a lot of baseball.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the opening weekend, the opening week. Everybody's just it's wall to wall balls in so many ways.
Balls to the wall, right?
Yeah, balls to the wall. But yeah, I mean, look, it's gonna be a great season. It's gonna be a great series. Please make sure to like and subscribe Stream Punk Entertainment on YouTube. Please continue to join us. We will have this show every post game at the end of each series,
right?
And make sure to join James for the Phillies pregame show, the beginning of the first game of each series.
Yeah, I got something in the wings for that. I'm just taking it one day at a time, especially with the Flyers, and especially I segue into the Phillies. So it'll be coming a little bit slowly but surely. But please stick with us.
It is a long season, James.
It's a long-ass season. It's a long season. Last thing we'll go. I forgot to show this earlier. Papanor was going off saying that Noah was in mid-season form in full effect. The emotional roller coaster has me going crazy. Pat, it's 162 of them, man. Relax. We don't worry.
It's okay, Pat. It's okay, Pat.
Yeah, it's okay to not be okay, buddy.
Yeah, it's okay. Look, I say this in closing. I say this in closing to Pat and to everyone else. Why do I sit here and I say that series are more important than individual victories?
Right.
Because if you win 2/3 of 162, you will win over 100 games.
That's all that should matter. I mean,
that should all matter. If you win 2/3 of 162, you will win over 100 games. So let's take a minute, take a beat, and just understand one individual loss, one individual game does not, ruin the whole season.
Yep, absolutely. So the last thing we'll say about this too is 160 more of them. So we got plenty more baseball to get to. Yep. All right, that's going to wrap up our portion for this edition of the Bats and Bells Phillies post-game show. I want to thank Joey Marks once again for joining me. Once again, as always, we really do appreciate it. And now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that connect with us and also continue to follow us on Facebook, social media, all of your social media platforms, either Hardcore Sports Network or Stream Punk Entertainment and everything about that in between. But like I said, now for everyone behind the scenes and for everyone that made it work here, for Joe Seppi, I'm James here, and this has been the Bats and Bells Phillies post-game show. And we'll see you guys next time, whenever that is. And let's have a better day tomorrow. And until then, we'll see you on the other side. Stay well, everyone.